I have been turning some bowls lately out of pin oak, and there's a log there, basically what I've been turning out of. That's about 14 inches in diameter, about 24 inches long. So I've turned a couple of bowls and ended up with a cut-off piece here that was left over from the last bowl that I turned. So I'm going to show you guys something I do with these when they're left over. I turned what's called a Torus bowl. It's not really a bowl; it's more of a hollow form, but it's in the shape of a torus. And so in this case, I've got this piece of wood's about 15 inches in diameter. It's a big piece to try this with. You might want to try with something smaller if you're going to do it yourself. And I have a 3/8 hole drilled there in the center, and I'll be putting that on a woodworm screw there in my chuck. So let me get set up for time lapse and show you how we make a Torus bowl. Alright, so once you have this thing looking like a tire on here, or a big skateboard wheel, then you're on the right track. So we're trying for a nice hemispherical shape here, and this ultimately will be the bottom of the bowl. So I am going to contour a little foot here. That'll start to make sense to you in just a minute. But once I get this thing nice and contoured, because it is going to be a hollow form, I'll have to sand the outside before I start hollowing it. So we'll get this thing finished. We'll shape it and then sand it. I'll end up drilling a hole here in the bottom and then spinning this thing around so that I can hollow from the front here. Alright, so you can see that I'm taking it down to the foot and then back up the other side. I'm going to take it approximately a little more than a third of the way back up the curve, so that we've got the bottom of the Torus more or less mapped out. And when you start getting up in here, be very careful. I mean, obviously this is end grain, but there's really no place for your tool to go if you get a catch, so it can be pretty bad. I've got a crack here, which shouldn't be a problem, but you know, when you're turning a piece of ingrain wood like this, you know, it's always good to keep in mind, do not get in the firing line here, because if this thing were to separate here, you know, a couple of 30-pound chunks of wood are going to go flying in all directions, so be careful with that. All right, I'll go back to time lapse and we'll keep working on it. Was tricky, but I got the hole drilled on the backside and I got this thing reversed. I've got my cone now in the original hole where the original, you know, woodworm screw was in there, and now I'll contour this down to about a third. What I want to do is leave about a third of the wood as a webbing connecting the center core that will ultimately be taken out with the Torus bowl. I'll leave about a third of that wood there for strength, so that I can start the hollowing process and still have plenty of meat there to hollow. So, all right, we'll go back to time lapse. Okay, well, the real trick here is to make this curve, the one that's coming down from the top of the bowl, meet the other curve, the one that's coming up from the bottom of the bowl. And really the only way to do that is to feel it. So you'll spend some time doing this and trying to feel, is the curve the same? Are they in about the same spot? And if you imagine that curve continuing from your fingertips in, is it going to meet in the middle? So it's an important thing. There's some work that you can do once the bowl is hollowed and the center plug is taken out to make those curves match up, but the closer you get the curves in the beginning, needless to say, the better it's going to look. ring tool, I was able to get all the way to the inside there and get that. And of course, I'm going straight back with the ring tool. This area right here was kind of tricky because the tailstock's in the way. But I was able to use this sort of this custom Ellsworth style scraper to kind of get around the corner and get that shoulder there. So it's going pretty well. I've got about about a quarter of an inch wall thickness here, and working it on around. I'm about probably 4/5 of the way through depth-wise. So now I'm going to have to be very careful to match my curve to the outside profile. And we'll just keep going. So the inside is hollowed out, and it's going to be between 1/4 and 1/8 of an inch wall thickness. I've gone thinner here on the sides to try to reduce the warping as the wood dries, because those are longer fibers. They would tend to warp the wood. So, and now I've got to cut the center of it out. So that ought to be fun, and I'll move the camera so you can get a better look. Alright, so just for your information, I'm going to cut this all the way past the center point and as far down as I can go from the front, which is the top of the piece, because if there is going to be a misalignment of the two surfaces from the bottom and top on the inside of the torus, I want that to be out of view. So I'll keep working this line around as far as I can practically, before I go to the back to finish up the separation. So I know this has been going on for ages and ages, but the webbing now that's supporting the inside of the torus is about 1/8 of an inch thick. So just a few more minutes of turning and it should come off of there and essentially just be suspended on the axle that is currently the center of the torus. And there it is. So you can see, I'll flip it over here, and you can see that I was pretty fortunate the way the curves lined up. It's just a lot of touching and testing and feeling. This flashing here, I'll call it, that's going to be taken out with the drill and sandpaper. The wall thickness turned out really well, I think. The thing is pretty light considering it's oak. Wall thickness is about 1/4 of an inch here, about 1/8 of an inch on the sides, and then here. It's thin enough that I can see a lot of light through here when I use my flashlight. And you can see there, that's all that's left of the original log. So this was where the two curves met, and I had to take this down to be able to bring my tool in and work on this cut. So, and then coming in from the back, you know, this little thing right here really kind of blocks me from being able to get in there. You can grind tools for cutting upside down and use them on the back side if you want. I had to cave in and spin around on the back side here and reverse the lathe to make this last cut because I just couldn't reach it any other way. So I am not going to oil this thing right now. I am going to simply put it in a plastic bag. It's pretty late, and I've been at this all day, so I'll finish that guy up tomorrow, do a little sanding on it, oil it up, and let you see the finished product. Alright, it's the next day here. I've got just a little bit of flashing. Right here, I think I showed this yesterday where the two curves meet, and so I'll power sand that off right now, and then I can get some oil on it. So there you go, folks. The Torus form. It's a hollow form, it's a Torus, it's a Torus form. Thanks for watching.